Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Westwood Public Library. Tonight, we will learn from financial professional and speaker Michael Graff for insight into how to maximize your Social Security benefits. We will also be welcoming Mike back next Tuesday evening, December 6th at 6:30 p.m. for part 2 to talk about income planning in retirement. We'll have the presentation, and then I just want to let you know there will be some time for Q&A at the end, and then the only other thing to say is we want to thank the Friends of the Westwood Public Library for all they do to support all of our programs. And I want to thank the Westwood Media Center for recording tonight's program so we can make it available to anybody who can't be here in person. And without any further ado, I'm going to pass it off.
Great. Thank you, Corinne. Okay. Well, pleasure to be here. And thanks again to the Westwood Library for hosting this event. All right. So we've got a nice small group. So hopefully this is going to be just a nice casual but very informative presentation on Social Security. So let's start right here. Well, we have our one of our presidents, FDR, who was really the gentleman who was in office when Social Security was the Social Security Act was approved and enacted. And he has this nice little thing here. We put those payroll contributions there so as to give the contributors a legal, moral, and political right to collect their pensions and their unemployment benefits with those taxes in there. No damn politician can ever scrap my Social Security program. And let's hope that that carries through to today, because I know we have had some, let's just say, some news about some politicians that are talking about scrapping Social Security to some degree. Not going to happen, but in any case, that was a kind of a founding statement from FDR. Okay. Maximizing Social Security. My name is Michael Graff. Very quickly, I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. Actually, I'm not going to go through all these details, but I have a lot of experience in financial services dating back a number of decades. You can just kind of peruse my credentials there. Hopefully, I do have all the knowledge necessary to address your questions today. And if you're interested in information offline, I'm happy to help you with that as well. Also do a lot of these library presentations. I'm also the author of the book 6 Steps to Retirement. So that's enough about me. This is, as Corinne was saying, this is a 2-part series. Tonight, Maximizing Social Security, followed up by next week's presentation on Tuesday the 6th, Retirement Income Planning. So hopefully you can make that as well. I'm not going to read this, but I do have to put this up there for a moment or two. This is our little disclaimer thing. The only thing that I will read off here is that we are not affiliated or we are not agents of the federal government or the Social Security Administration. So if you've had a chance to look that over, I'll move right along. You also should have a copy of this little booklet, Maximizing Social Security. Again, just some general information to take home. It's actually got some very good details about Social Security in there, so look that over and note any questions you have from that. Also, I do offer some services post-workshop to help you individually with Social Security, because again, tonight is really a kind of a general overview of Social Security, but if you would like to have more of a customized approach to looking at your Social Security, I can help you with that as well. That would be the website that you would go to schedule an appointment. Okay, so let's get started with the program, but don't expect this to be easy because this is a federal program, okay? So anything having to do with the federal government clearly is more complicated than not, all right? Anybody disagree with that? Okay. So what are some of the questions that you have? Well, we start with, when is the best time to claim benefits? Obviously a very important question because, as we'll talk about later, there are numerous options in terms of when you can claim. When and how much will Social Security be taxed? Unfortunately, it is a source of income. The IRS, they're going to have their hand in your pocket with Social Security as well as a lot of other things. Can you work and collect Social Security? A lot of people are concerned about that because some people want to continue working past Social Security age and then also collect the benefits. So how does that work? We'll go over that. How do you benefit from a spouse's Social Security? Married couples clearly need to coordinate their Social Security with each other's benefits. What benefits are there if you are divorced or you've lost a spouse? How does that work? And, why not just claim Social Security as early as possible? You'd say, we'll talk about this later, but age 62. Why not just claim then, right? Obviously, we're going to talk about that because sometimes that might not be the best option for you, although sometimes it might. But again, that's all part of the process of evaluating and analyzing your options. Plus a lot of other questions that certainly you have and you'll probably think about as we're going through the program. All right, so Social Security is really the foundation of your retirement income. It's that starting point, if you will, as you begin the process of developing your retirement plan and looking at how you're going to leverage your financial resources to create a predictable, sufficient, and sustainable retirement income. You start with Social Security. The average person, when they retire, is going to need to replace a percentage of the income that they were getting during their working years. So you retire, you give up your paycheck, and you go, okay, so how much income do I actually need at this point? Do I need to replace 100% of it? Or maybe I only need to replace a percentage of it, maybe 60% or 80% or something like that. So again, something to keep in mind as you begin that process of looking at how you're going to leverage your financial resources. So if you look at this pie right here, Social Security benefits for the average person, and I stress the average person, is going to replace roughly 20 to 40% of your pre-retirement income. The rest of it, roughly 60 to 80%, needs to come from those other sources. Pensions, retirement savings, other types of savings, even part-time wages, etc. So again, understand that Social Security is not designed to replace 100% of your income. It's only going to replace a percentage. So again, you need to coordinate it with your other retirement resources. So this right here is really just informational. It shows, on average, where most people get their retirement income from. Social Security, as you can see from here, replaces about a third of income for most people. And then you've got pensions, earnings, people continue to work in retirement, income from savings and investments, and other sources. So just from an informational point of view, that's where the average person is deriving their retirement income from. All right, so Social Security, how much are we really talking about here? How much money is it really? Well, in 2022, the average Social Security amount, or the Social Security benefit, is $1,658. Now, so that averages out to a little under $20,000 a year. Over a 25-year retirement, you're talking, $600 and change. Okay, so $600,000 and change, pretty good amount of money, again, as you're looking at it cumulatively over an average retirement horizon. The maximum benefit this year, if you maxed out from an earnings point of view, would be $3,345, which again, it's about $40,000 a year over a 25-year period, almost $1.3 million over an average retirement life. Married couples who are combining Social Security, obviously it's going to be a lot more money, roughly $1.5 million or more. So obviously we're talking some big money here. So mistakes can be costly. So obviously that's why you're here. You want to avoid mistakes. You want to obviously claim most efficiently to maximize or optimize your benefits. All right, so here we go. So here's 10-year-old Molly. She still believes in the Easter Bunny. You got Curtis, 11 years old. He still believes in Santa. You got Dwayne, 42. He still believes in Social Security. All right, trying to be a little facetious here. But anyway, the point is that Social Security, one of the big questions that I get is, will Social Security be here for us? Now, I think we're all baby boomers in the room here, so I'm going to say absolutely it's going to be here for us. Now, for my kids, I've got 3 kids, all adult children, but they are, I'm not so sure it's going to be here in the same form for them. But we're not really talking about that at this point. We're really talking about what it really means for baby boomers. But just for informational purposes, we can kind of look at how this is working. And I'm going to see if my little pointer thing works here. Yeah, it does. Well, anyway, okay. Not sure it's showing up there. But in any case, you can see 1970 through 1980, there was actually a bit of a deficit. You can see from the orange lines pointing down there. Then it was a surplus for a long time. And then as we entered, see, around 2000, late 2008, 2010, kind of pointed down again. And now you see that the trust fund is going to be depleted. And actually, they're projecting, if you read the trustees report, the most recent trustees report, they're projecting that it will be depleted by 2034. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean that all of a sudden your Social Security is shut off and you don't get any money? That's not the case. If for some reason the politicians and the powers that be do not, quote, fix Social Security between now and 2034, what that simply means is that the amount of money you would get would be reduced by about 20 to 21 cents per Social Security dollar. So Social Security, the income will never go away, but if for some reason they don't fix it and the Social Security Trust Fund is completely depleted, then it would reduce what you're getting by about 20%. Let's hope that doesn't happen. What you might want to do in the interim is get in touch with your, congressmen, your senators, and let them know that you're concerned about it. Okay. All right. Now we're really kind of going to get into kind of the meat of the program here. 3 basic steps to complete in order to properly evaluate your Social Security options. The first one is to review your current Social Security benefits. All right? That's the first thing. Second is to understand what options are available to you and, if you're part of a married couple, to the both of you. And then you need to develop a plan to optimize or maximize your lifetime benefits. Now, I'm just going to very quickly draw a distinction between the word optimize versus maximize. Now, one of the things that you might hear from your friends, your coworkers, other people who have, thoughts about Social Security is they may say, oh, you should absolutely wait until you're age 70 because, if you wait, it increases the benefit. And for them, that might have worked great, okay? Or maybe they didn't even really think about it. The idea of Social Security is not necessarily to think about maximizing it, but to think about how to optimize it and coordinate it with your other retirement income resources. Sometimes it actually makes sense from a financial point of view to actually take less Social Security if it helps you, for example, to retire earlier. I have people that I work with who say, I don't want to work until I'm 70 or I want to retire earlier. And if I take my Social Security at, say, 62, that means I can retire earlier. So oftentimes, the decision about Social Security is not just a financial one. Sometimes it's a lifestyle one. So it's important that as you're evaluating your options that you look at it from different perspectives. So I like to think of evaluating Social Security as more of an optimization exercise and not just maximizing it for dollars. I hope that, hope I was clear about that. Okay. All right. So, Social Security statement. It actually looks a little different than that right now. But what you want to do is get your Social Security statement, and what that statement is going to tell you is, for example, it's going to give you, your earnings record dating all the way back to when, you've got your very first job. I remember when I saw my first one, I'll talk about this a little bit later, I thought, oh my gosh, that was my very first job, and here's how much money I made. It was kind of an interesting trip down memory lane, actually. Okay. But it's going to give you your earnings record, your Medicare earnings record. It's also going to tell you how much you and your employer have paid in to Social Security to cover Social Security taxes and Medicare taxes, which is always an interesting number to look at. And then finally, it's going to tell you how much you are eligible to get on a projected basis at different ages, 62, full retirement age, if you wait till age 70. And again, this current Social Security statement looks a little bit different than this, but it still has the same information. Now, I want to introduce a term to you now, primary insurance amount. It's a term that's going to come up as we go through the program. But what this represents is the amount of Social Security income you will receive at your full retirement days. They call it the primary insurance amount. Okay, so, and as you can see, we're sort of kind of going through this, through the slides. So, if you have a question or anything, feel free to, just kind of, quickly raise your hand and we can kind of go through things. But short of that, I'm just going to kind of keep going through and addressing all of these topics. First of all, you should start by setting up a Social Security account. How many people here have already done that? Gone on? You've already done that? Okay, good. So you're way ahead of it. Logging in is exactly, yeah, yeah. So here's how it works. And again, they change the format of the website. But you go to ssa.gov/my-account, and then you'd either sign in, or if you haven't created an account yet, then you literally click create an account, and there's a process you go through where they validate you and verify you, and then once you do that, then you can get in and you can do some different things. You can review your benefits. Get a copy of your statement, for example, which you want to have, to review. Update your address, change direct deposit information. So again, you do want to establish direct access to your Social Security account. That's really the first thing you want to do. And again, create an account or sign in. All right. So how are Social Security benefits calculated? Well, it's fairly complicated, but it's based on the averaging of the highest 35 years of your income, again, over your working life, and then what they do is they index it to inflation. So, and then they use this to calculate your primary insurance amount. So again, they average it out, and if you have worked for less than 35 years, then they'll average in some zeros. If you've worked more than 35 years, then they'll knock out the lowest earnings years in favor of the higher earnings years. So again, it's that 35-year time frame that they use to average out your income, again, indexed for inflation. And that's what they call it. Average indexed monthly earnings, okay? So here's what the benefits formula looks like. There's actually a form that you can download from the Social Security website, which explains exactly how this works. It looks like this. So let me just quickly go through this. There's actually a 7-step process. We're not going to go through all 7 steps tonight, but I'm going to just kind of show you how it starts. So you start with step 1. All right. So what happens is you look at your earnings. You take your total earnings, Social Security earnings, from that column. And then what you do is you actually put it on the paper right here. Anybody here like to kind of play with math? Anybody here like numbers? Okay. Some people do, some people don't. I'm a calculator guy, but some people like to sit down with a pad of paper and kind of, mess around with numbers. If that's the type of person you are, then you'll have all kinds of fun with this. So in any case, you're going to literally transfer the information from the statement onto this sheet here, into those columns. Just like that. And then step 2 is you're going to actually take the index factor, and again, this is the inflation factor, and multiply it times the indexed earnings, and then that will give you what the income after they account for inflation. All right, okay. Real exciting stuff, right? Okay, so I sort of, what I was sort of talking about earlier is when I got my first Social Security statement, I looked at it, and my very first job was at a restaurant called Pewter Pot at the Walpole Mall. Anybody remember Pewter Pot? That was my very first job. I was a dishwasher, worked real hard. They promoted me to short order cook. So worked there for a couple of years when I was in high school. In any case, that was 1976. I earned $430. I was getting paid $2 and change. It was like $2.10 an hour when I started there. Made $430 according to my statement in 1976. So the way that's going to work for me is you take $430, multiply that out times 5.45. That's the index factor. So that will actually be counted on my calculation when I apply for Social Security as $2,300 and change. All right. So that just to illustrate how that works. Any questions on that? Yeah, I mean, it's informational. Okay. All right, so just to kind of bring a little bit of levity to what we're talking about here, because this is obviously a very serious subject, just a little bit of a break here on trivia. All right, so first of all, the legislation called the Social Security Act was passed in what year? Anybody know? Hazard a guess? Very good, 1935, exactly. Okay, good. Yeah, that's right. Win a prize, all right. Okay, now, how about Social Security numbers? Now, I never realized the Social Security number actually has some rhyme and reason to it. The first three numbers are location. Now, it's interesting. I was actually born out west. I was actually born in Utah. My Social Security number starts with the number 5, okay? Most people who are born around here, it starts with 0, okay? So I never knew that, and then I realized, okay, it's location. The second one is group by state, and then the third set of numbers, that's actually particular to you. All right, so there you go. Just a little bit of Social Security trivia for you. All right, here we go. So let's take a closer look at the details of the program. So we're actually going to get more into the meat of this. I'm going to talk about being eligible versus entitled, claiming age, COLA, cost of living, working after you file a claim, taxation of benefits, spousal benefits, these acronyms WEP and GPO, we'll talk about what those are, and then common claiming strategies. Okay, so what does eligible versus entitled mean? To some degree this is semantics, but it does kind of play into it. An eligible worker is one who has accumulated the quarters or the credits needed in order to be eligible for Social Security. So the way that works is, okay, so a quarter or a credit is earned. You can earn up to 4 per year. It's literally a quarter, 3 months. And in 2022, if you earn wages in a quarter of at least $1,510, then you would receive 1 Social Security credit. So, again, maximizing, you can earn up to 4 credits per year. So basically, the way it works out is if you work a reasonable part-time or certainly a full-time job, and you do that for a 10-year period, then you will be eligible for Social Security. So that's how that works. So that's an eligible worker. An entitled worker is one who is actually already filed and they are already collecting. They've claimed their Social Security. So just a little bit of semantics there, but it does come up, within the process. Claiming ages. All right, so the earliest you can claim Social Security under normal conditions is 62. Then they've got this concept of full retirement age, which is going to vary based on the year of your birth. So if you were born before 1937, nobody in here was, I'm sure, then it would be 65. For most people, it's 66, or it's 66 plus, or 67. And you can see the ages there. 1943 to 54, you're right at 66 is your full retirement age, and then you've got 66 plus, for example. In 1955, it's 66 and 2 months. 1956 is 66 and 4 months, and so on, up until 1960. And 1960 and beyond, it's just age 67 is your full retirement age. And again, that's where you receive 100% of your primary insurance amount. So again, keeping in mind that term. Now, you can actually wait until age 70. And we'll talk about the benefits of that in a moment. But anyway, those are the claiming ages. Sure, yeah. Yep.
So if I am not eligible until let's say if I'm the last one, right? So
67? Okay.
Right. So are you saying I can't claim at 65?
You can. And we're going to talk about that, but just to tell you very quickly, that you can claim starting at age 62, but if you claim prior to or before your full retirement age, then you will receive a lower benefit. And there's a whole calculation assigned to that. But anyway, good question. Okay, so then, all right, so let's talk about the pros and cons of the different retirement ages here. So, all right, so if you claim at 62, the benefit of this is, well, you receive benefits earlier. I'm 62, I'm claiming my benefits, I'm getting money. Great, okay. If I wait, I'm not getting that money. So obviously you're getting it earlier. So, you know, if you happen to be an amateur astronomer and you happen to look up in your telescope one night and you see a big meteor heading towards the Earth and it's going to, going to demolish the Earth in the next 5 years, then what are you going to do? You're not going to wait. You're going to go right to Social Security and claim your Social Security benefits. Obviously, facetious. But if you're going to live a very long, healthy life, you got longevity in your family or something like that, then you might want to wait. There's benefits. There's kind of a break-even point. And again, it'll be a little bit different for everybody. But again, 62, money now sometimes for people is better than money later. It's part of the process, part of the evaluation process. The con is that you get a smaller check. You are taking a permanent haircut on your benefits if you claim early. Also, and this is something else we'll talk about, is there's the earnings test. If you take the benefits earlier and you're working, there's a potential issue there, which we'll talk about. If you take your income at full retirement age, you get a higher amount. You waited, but you get a higher amount. You get 100% of your primary insurance amount. And there's also no penalty if you're employed. But you didn't get any money between 62 and whenever you filed. Say it's 67 in your case. Now, if you wait till age 70, you're going to get the highest possible amount based on your situation. No penalty if you're employed. But again, you didn't get those benefits. So if the Earth gets clobbered by a meteor, you missed out on all that. Okay? All right. So claiming benefits at 62 would allow you to receive benefits earlier, but there's a permanent reduction, and this is based on if your full retirement age is between 66 and 67, you're going to receive a reduction of either 25 down to 30%. All right, so that's a permanent reduction. All right, so important to understand that. Yes.
Under cons, if you're age 70, what exactly does that mean? No benefits?
What I'm simply saying there is that while you were waiting, you did not receive the money.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah,
I know that's not completely clear there, but yeah, it just really means that, obviously there's a benefit to claiming at 62 because you're getting a check every month. If you don't claim it, then you're not getting that money. So again, just that's the con. Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
So let's say I waited till 67, which is where my age
Right.
is.
Full retirement age.
I
Yeah.
waited for full retirement. But let's say because of childbearing years, I didn't meet the credits and the 35 years of that was required
Right.
to meet that.
Well, if you don't have the 40 credits or the 40 quarters, then you're not eligible. So unless, now the one exception to that is if you are married and your spouse is eligible, then you are entitled as a spouse. There's something called spousal benefits, which we'll talk about. So that would be the one area where a person who is not eligible could still get some Social Security.
So I wouldn't be eligible for anything until the 35 years are accounted for? Or?
Well, no, it actually doesn't have anything to do with the 35 years. That's what they use in order to calculate your primary insurance amount. The determination on whether or not you are eligible to, get Social Security on your own earnings record, is if you have worked enough. In other words, you got the 40 credits or the 40 quarters. So in 2022, if you work in a 3-month period, if you work and earn $1,510, then you would receive 1 credit, okay, or 1 quarter, and so that would go towards the 40 quarters that you need in order to be eligible for Social Security. But if you fall short of that, then you are not eligible, and you would not be able to get Social Security.
So it's 10 years
It-
and 1,500.
It's like it's the equivalent of working 10 years.
And 1,500
Each quarter, yep. And by the way, that number changes every year. It goes up every year. Like for 2020, I haven't looked it up yet for 2023, but for 2022, you had to earn $1,510 per quarter in order to get a credit. Yeah. But if you go on the Social Security site, if you go on the Social Security site, you can determine right away whether or not you have enough credit. If you don't, they'll tell you, how much you're short. Yeah. I can help you with that. Okay. So again, it's the same thing here. Full retirement age, you get 100% of your primary insurance amount, and you can work without penalty. We'll talk about that in a minute. If you wait after your full retirement age, for every year you wait, full year, you get an 8% increase in your Social Security benefit. So if you were born, after 1943, between that and 1954, and your full retirement age is 66, then you would get exactly 32% more if you waited till age 70. So if your full retirement age is 66 and you waited to 70, your benefit would increase by 32% if you waited and claimed at age 70. Okay, it's a little bit different depending on what your exact full retirement age is. Okay, so how are benefits, how are they different at different ages? It really just kind of shows you right here. So if 66 is your full retirement age, and say, your benefit is $1,000, if you claimed at 65, it would be reduced by, down to $933. I'm not going to try to do the math. 866, 800, 750, so there's a 25% difference. And then, increased accordingly. Okay, so the 8%, 8%, 8%. So just to give you kind of a frame of reference on exactly what do I lose if I claim earlier, if I claim before my full retirement age, what do I gain if I wait till after? All right, so it just gives you kind of an idea. Okay, so when do you think most people claim Social Security? Just a guess. 65? Well, actually, you're kind of right. Most people claim earlier, okay? In fact, most people claim at 62. 71% according to this information from 2017. No. This was actually some statistics that came out of the Social Security Annual Statistical Supplement released in March 2018. They say approximately 71% of Americans elect to receive the Social Security benefits early, meaning age 62. Only 4% wait. Okay. Now, the big question is, are people claiming early because it's more beneficial for them? Or is it just that they haven't really done planning? Again, money now for a lot of people is better than money later. And that makes some sense. What I was talking about earlier is optimizing versus maximizing. What is the best way, the optimal way for you to claim your benefits? Most people don't come to events like this. They don't spend the time sitting down with a Social Security professional or somebody schooled in Social Security to really understand, what's the best way to do that. So I think the result of that is most people just claim early because it's like, well, what the heck, I'll take it. So that's just kind of a guess on my part, but the fact that only 4% wait, I think says something. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Okay. Cost of living adjustment. Now we've all heard about inflation, all right? A few years ago, inflation was no big deal. All of a sudden, and for good reason, it's a huge deal, all right? So obviously, the cost of living adjustment on Social Security is much more meaningful. So here's the history. Starting in 1975 is when Social Security was first indexed for inflation. And you can see, kind of go down the list there, of all the years, all the different increases in Social Security, including some 0 years, 2009, 2010. Again, when when inflation was low, then they didn't feel the need to increase the benefits much. But you can see 2021, 5.9% increase, and now 2022, 8.7. So again, it has, it does go up based on inflation. Now, in my opinion, it's not going to keep up with real inflation, but at least Social Security does account for inflation. All right, so important consideration. Now, without getting into too much in the weeds here, it used to be based on the CPIW, Consumer Price Index, for urban wage earners and clerical workers. They changed that with the CPA Act of 2017. It's now based on the CPIE, which is for elderly, okay, and that is increasing. It's making the adjustment, the inflation adjustment, more favorable. So they did amend the Social Security program to make it more sensitive and more, you know, let's just say more favorable for inflation adjustment. But again, you know, how that's going to translate going forward, depending on what inflation trends are, you know, that remains to be seen. The average is, you know, it's about 2.2% over the past 20 years. So again, you know, but again, over the past 20 years or so, inflation was really fairly under control. So we'll see how that goes going forward. All right, how will working impact your Social Security benefits? A lot of people want to continue working, you know, after they, you know, claim their Social Security benefits. So what's the problem? Why not, right? Well, here's how it works. There's 2022 is called the earnings limit or the earnings test. So if you claim your Social Security before your full retirement age, then you can earn up to $19,560 in 2022 without a problem. But for every dollar of wages you earn for every $2 you earn over that $19,560, the government's going to withhold one of your Social Security dollars. It's not a penalty, it's a withholding. I'll explain that in a second. Now, in the year that you turn your full retirement age, you can earn up to $51,960, but for every dollar you earn after that, every $3 you earn after that, they're going to withhold one of your Social Security dollars. After you've turned your full retirement age, then there's no limit. You can work, earn as much as you want, and there's no impact to your Social Security. So the point here is that if you're going to work after claiming benefits, just be aware that there are some limits if you claim before your full retirement age and then, you know, technically in the year that you turn that. Yes?
Is it the year you turn or the date?
It's actually calculated within that year. Well, you have the, in other words, you turn your full retirement age during that particular year, and then it's the income that you earn during that year.
So it's not about your actual birthday date
It's that calendar year.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you say that they're going to withhold the money, if you make money
Yeah.
more time,
Yeah.
200,000, when do they give you back that number?
Yeah, great question. It's right here. All right, so the way it works is, and it's according to this, you know, Social Security Administration publication, the amount that your benefits are reduced, however, isn't truly lost. Your benefit will be increased at your full retirement age to account for the benefits withheld due to earlier earnings. It's a withholding. It's not a penalty. Now, so what the government will do is they will actually increase your benefits later and sort of sprinkle that money back into your Social Security. I haven't been able to find anything on the Social Security site where they actually say this is exactly how we put the money back in, but it is given back to you. So it's not actually a penalty. You technically don't lose the money. But you need to be aware that they're going to withhold that. Again, say you file your Social Security at 62, and then you keep working and you earn over that $19,560. Just be aware, for every $2 over that, they're going to withhold part of your Social Security, $1 of it. So again, it's just really just information. I just want to make sure that you're aware of that so that you can plan accordingly. Now, it may be perfectly fine. You know, you may say, the heck, you know, this is the way I'm going to do it. You know, I want to, you know, get the $9,560. Or you may say, okay, as soon as I hit, you know, 19,000, you know, 560, that's it, I quit. You know, I'm not working anymore. Again, it's just be aware of what the restrictions are, you know, on the program. Well, they can make 19,560, or they can. Then, well, it's not taxed, but it was. Yeah, no, I hear you. You know, I'm not saying this is a great this is a good thing, but it's a thing. So be aware of it. Well, it's not taxes. It's not income tax here. It's a withholding. The government is really saying, basically what they're really saying is, listen, if you're going to keep working, then don't claim your Social Security. You know, maybe that, I mean, again, what their motivation, what the government's motivation is for, utilizing this particular rule, I don't know, or for, instituting it. But again, just be aware of the earnings test or this earnings limit. Again, if you're working, claiming early, be aware. Yeah. Okay, Social Security taxation. This is something that came about with the changes that were made in the early 1980s, 1983. Okay, there's a term called provisional income. Now, Social Security has their own little tax form. Once you're collecting Social Security, it'll be included with your 1040. Anyway, provisional income includes the following. This is a term this is income that Social Security uses in order to calculate whether or not you are taxed on Social Security. It's comprised of 1/2 of your Social Security, wages if you're employed, distributions from your traditional accounts, 401ks, IRAs, etc., interest and dividend income, including anything that's considered tax-free, like tax-free bonds, capital gains, pension payments. All of these, basically pretty much all income is included, in this calculation, or it's included in provisional income. And here's how it works. So if you're filing single, if your provisional income is under $25,000, then none of your Social Security is taxed. If it's between 25 and 34, up to 50% of it is taxed. If you earn over 34,000, then provisional income, then up to 85% of your Social Security is subject to taxation. In other words, it's added to your taxable income. And now, if you're married, the numbers are a little bit higher, 32, 32, 44, and over 44. Essentially, what this really boils down to is 15% of your Social Security is never going to get taxed. But, depending on what your income, your provisional income is, more of it will be taxed. Now, these thresholds were set in 1983, and they have never been indexed to inflation. So the problem is that it's getting harder and harder every year to protect your Social Security from taxation. Now, one thing to keep in mind here, oops, wait a minute. Let's go back, okay. Oh, no, okay. So reducing or eliminating tax on Social Security, you can postpone your benefits, okay? Suspend your claim, wait till later years. You can restructure, reconsider, resequence other sources of income. In other words, just things that you can do in order to manage, your Social Security taxation, your provisional income number. Or you can enhance other types of income that you receive that are not part of provisional income. For example, Roth IRA distributions are not considered provisional income. So if you have the ability, if you have a Roth, you have the ability to withdraw money from a Roth for income purposes, that's a way to control your provisional income. Cash value life insurance withdrawals. If you have that type of life insurance and you've structured it correctly, and you structure the withdrawals correctly, very important, then you can, collect that income and not impact your provisional income. To some degree, annuity payments, again, this is an area of complication, so be very careful with this, but to some part of, annuity payments are not considered part of provisional income. But again, it's all part of that aspect of Social Security is your foundational piece of your retirement income, and then the other resources that you have, how you manage those in order to, maximize or optimize your Social Security.
So can I ask, because I have annuities.
Yes.
So if I'm understanding this, that wouldn't impact, so you just said like it was.
Let me just interject real quick. The annuities have to be non-qualified. They can't be IRA-type annuities. If they're IRA-type annuities, any income that comes out of those all of that's provisional income. But if you are taking income from a non-tax qualified annuity, then part of what you take out, and again, it depends if it's a withdrawal or if it's an annuitization, but some of that is not considered income. It's considered return of principal. There's this thing called the exclusion ratio. I'm not going to get into that. But again, if you have annuities, if they are non-qualified annuities, then part of what you receive, depending on how you receive it, would not be considered provisional income. Some of it will be, but some of it won't be.
So non-qualified.
Non-tax qualified annuities.
So I
Yeah.
need to find out.
Find out exactly what type of annuity it is. Is it a qualified annuity? In other words, an IRA type annuity, or is it a non-tax qualified annuity? Yeah. Sure. Okay. All right. Quick pop quiz. All right. If you begin collecting after you reach full retirement age and you become eligible for delayed retirement credits, these credits increase your monthly benefit by 8%. Somebody said it. Okay. Each year that you delay collecting up to a maximum of, if you were born in, if your full retirement age is 66, 32%. Okay. Once you reach age 70, okay, giving it away, no additional delayed retirement credits accrue. So again, you waiting till age 70 might make sense for you, but clearly no benefit. I've had people ask me, well, is it beneficial to wait till after age 70? Absolutely not. Claim at 70 because you get no additional benefits after that. So anyway, okay, so quick pop quiz. All right, spousal benefit options. All right, so a spouse, and I sort of describe a spouse as somebody who is the lower wage earner. So you've got a higher wage earner, lower wage earner. So this is really more for the lower wage earning spouse. They can either collect their own benefit, assuming they have the 40 credits or 40 quarters, or they can collect the spousal benefits. Say they did not work enough to get 40 quarters, then they can earn, or let's say their benefit, their primary insurance amount is less than 50% of their higher wage earner Social Security, then they can get 50%. Okay, so that's how the spousal benefit would work, or a survivor benefit. Yes.
I mean, it's the one Social Security plus 50% of that amount.
Yeah. So all right. So let's quick example. Let's say the higher wage earning spouse is earning $2,500 is their primary insurance amount, and the lower wage earner is getting $1,000. Okay. So that's less than 50%. So what Social Security will do is say, okay, well, we're going to bump you up. We're going to give you half. We're going to give you $1,250. All right. But let's say the lower wage earning spouse, let's say $2,500 for the higher wage earner, and say the lower wage earner is getting $2,000. Well, then the lower wage earner will just get the $2,000. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Do they have to retire, collect at the same time?
Oh, no. Well, okay. Technically, yes. The way it works is once the higher wage earner spouse applies and they're collecting, then the lower wage earner spouse can then collect, although there is a way for that to happen. Sometimes you have like a divorce situation, which I'll talk about in a second. But they can claim at different times, but the lower wage earner spouse should wait until the higher wage earner starts collecting. Okay. All right. Okay, important aspects to know about spousal benefits. In order to claim spousal benefits, you must be at least 62. So the lower wage earning spouse, or even the spouse that's not even qualified or not eligible, has to be 62. All right. You have to have been married for at least a year. And then there's also, I'm not going to get into it, but if you have a qualifying child, then that, under the age of 16, but we won't get into that. And again, it's the same thing. If the spouse collects before their full retirement age, then they take a reduction as well. Remember I was talking about that earlier, like a 25 to 30% reduction? Same thing for the spouse. If their full retirement age is 67, but they claim at 62, then they're going to take a 30% reduction of what their benefit is. So just be aware of that as well. Okay, and this is really just a grid that shows the different numbers. So, 1943 to 54, 60, it just shows what the percentage of reductions are. So we won't spend any time on this. I'm just showing it to you. literally, there are all these different numbers that have to be calculated. When you actually go to Social Security and make your application, then all this stuff gets thrown into the mix. But just so, again, just so you're aware of it. Okay, in the event of divorce, now I've actually had people, I've been doing these Social Security workshops for the past 8 years, and, I've had people come to these and say, oh, yeah, I didn't realize I was eligible. I thought once I got divorced, that's it. It's all done. It's over. No, that's not the case. Okay, so here's the way it works. If you were married, okay, so if you're at least 62 and you were married for at least 10 years, okay, so if you were married for 10 years and then got divorced and you are not remarried and your ex-spouse is entitled, that kind of goes to what we were just talking about there. Entitled versus eligible. So eligible means that you have the 40 quarters. Entitled means you've actually claimed your benefit. So if your ex-spouse is entitled, although there is this independent entitlement, which, again, I've put up here. I'm not going to spend the time on it, but just make a note, especially if it's a divorce situation. If they're independent, you can do an independent entitlement thing. So in any case, so if you meet those criteria, then you are eligible as a spouse, as a lower wage earner, to get Social Security. Now, that may be beneficial. In other words, is it more beneficial to get your own benefit or to get the spousal benefit? All right? And even now, I've had people that I've worked with who have said, well, I don't know what my ex-spouse, I don't know their situation. I don't have no relationship with them anymore. Doesn't make any difference. Just take basic documentation, take your obviously the name, get your marriage certificate, your divorce decree, go to the Social Security office, and you can get all this information, and your ex-spouse never has to know about it. And by the way, it doesn't impact their benefits. So, some people have asked me, well, yeah, but if I claim off my ex-spouse that I'm divorced from, doesn't that impact their benefits? No, it does not. So again, if there's a divorce situation, call me. I can get into more details about that. But, plenty of divorced people are eligible. The alimony doesn't have anything to do with that, with whether or not you're entitled or eligible or anything like that. So, and I've had people come who were like, I didn't realize I was eligible. Thank you very much for telling me. Okay, survivor benefits. Here's another area. So if you were, widowed or widower, so now here's where you're at least 60, all right, so it's a little bit, lower age. You were married for at least 9 months, or if you were divorced and then your ex-spouse passed away, you had to have been married for at least 10 years. You remain unmarried until after the age of 60, okay? Once you're age 60, then you can remarry and still be, entitled or still be eligible for this. And here's how it works. Again, I won't get into all the details, but, here's the information here. 60, 61, 62, again, if you claim earlier, then, you'll have reduced benefits. So the longer you wait to claim, the better off you are from a, maximizing your benefits perspective. But again, just be aware of that. And again, I'm happy to report that I've had people come to these workshops that didn't realize that that was an option for them, and they walked away and realized, wow, that's good, and I take some gratification in knowing that I've helped people by informing them of that particular information. All right, WEP and GPO. What do these stand for? Well, WEP stands for Windfall Elimination Provision, and I'm just going to kind of quickly go, okay, and GPO stands for the Government Pension Offset. Anybody here ever work a job like with the government or with a municipality where you did not pay into Social Security, you paid into a different retirement system? Okay, so do you know if you were subject to the windfall elimination provision? You are, okay. Yeah, this is something that a lot of people are very angry about, and I completely understand that, because you get a reduced benefit generally. It doesn't eliminate your benefits, but it changes one of the numbers in that, remember that 7-step calculation? It changes one of the numbers that they use, from 90 down to 30 anyway, or thereabouts. And so again, it's just, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this right now. Just understand that if you worked a job, typically a government, municipal type job, where you were paying into a different retirement system, you may be subject to a reduction of your benefits based on that other income. So just be aware of it. Okay, quick example. Yeah, I mean, just again, government pension offset. That's how that works right there. Again, I don't want to spend any time on this. Again, happy to talk to you one-on-one if this is something that you're concerned about. Okay, now I always mention that they generally are they're trying to get rid of this. There's legislation that's been, let's just say they file this legislation pretty much every year. It never passes. This past year, as of March of 2022, House Bill 82, Senate Bill 1302, the Social Security Fairness Act, it didn't pass. So again, it's another year, didn't work. Well, what they're doing, and again, what they're saying is if you were working but not paying into Social Security, you were paying into a different retirement system, then you're going to get retirement from that other system. So in their infinite wisdom, they decided to change. There's a formula where one of the numbers in the formula for people that are not subject to this, it's 0.9%. But if you are subject to this, then depending on how many years you again, without getting into all the details, there's years of substantial earnings. So if you if you begin, and they have a number that it changes every year. So if you work, you get to the point where you've worked 20 years where you've earned Social Security wages on a substantial earnings basis, and it exceeds 20 up to 30. If you get back to 30 years of substantial earnings years, then you can have worked the other job and not be subject to WEP. But so you have to get all the way up to 30 years of reaching that substantial earnings number for 30 years. Anyway, it's complicated. I'm happy to talk to anybody offline about this, so then I can really get into the weeds with you on it. Yes?
So does it presume that they will be federal or state employees will get a pension? Is it dependent on getting a pension?
Yeah.
Would you work and not get a pension?
Well, yeah, you have to have worked a job where you pay into another system where generally it's a government pension. It's like being like on a municipal basis, like being a teacher, working for a town in some administrative role, policeman, fireman, first responder type jobs, where you're working, you're paying into a retirement plan, but it's just not Social Security. So that's the thing. Like a lot of teachers are subject to this.
Yeah, they put money into a different fund.
Right.
They're going to get paid from that fund.
They're going to get paid from that fund. Yeah. Yeah.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, and it only applies if you also worked a Social Security job and you earned the 40 quarters. So if you happen, that's where it gets sticky because, oh, wait a minute, I worked, I paid into Social Security. Why should I get penalized? And I have people that are very angry about this, and I always remind them, well, we keep filing legislation every year to get rid of it. Maybe one of these days it will pass. And the justification for it, I've read through some of that stuff. I mean, I kind of see what they're talking about. I don't really think I agree with it. I think if you paid into Social Security, you should get all your Social Security, even if you paid into another system, because you weren't paying into, Social Security while you were doing the other thing. So, but anyway, whatever. I mean, it's all debatable. So, and whether the government ever does things that are completely justified, probably not. Anyway, okay. Another quick little trivia thing here. Okay. Actually, I really like these stories here. Ernest Ackerman was the very first recipient of Social Security benefits. Mr. Ackerman worked in Cleveland as a streetcar motorman and retired the day after the Social Security program began. When he received his last paycheck, he found that his employer had withheld a nickel from his pay, and consequently, he was eligible for benefits because they withheld that one nickel. Okay. Mr. Ackerman received a whopping lump sum payment of 17 cents. So they took a nickel, but they gave him back 17 cents. All right, so this is the 1930s, so I don't know. What can 17 cents buy in the 1930s? I don't know. Coffee, well, hopefully. Well, coffee anyway. Yeah. Well, because when Social Security first started, it was actually a lump sum benefit. It wasn't a monthly thing. Anyway. Okay. Better story. Ida Mae Fuller, 65-year-old retired, was the first person to receive a monthly Social Security payment. On January 31st, 1940, she received the first monthly check in the amount of $22.54. For the next 35 years, the Social Security Administration mailed monthly checks to her home in Rutland, Vermont. She paid in $24.75 into the system over the 3 years that preceded her collecting Social Security, retirement collecting. She lived to age 100. How about that? And she collected her checks until 1975. Now, there was no inflation. There was no COLA at that point, so the check stayed at $22.54. But how much do you think she collected over her lifetime? I won't ask you to do any calculations here, but it was actually a whopping almost $23,000. She paid in about $25, and she took out about $23,000. So that's a better story. What's that? And she was getting $22.54. Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, the 24, yeah, that was like the little incremental, withholdings that she had to pay in. But because she lived so long, it added up to almost $23,000. So anyway, a better story, okay. How somebody, paid into the system and really got a lot out of it. Okay, hopefully we all do that well. Okay, important note for couples. Now, this is something that I always caution people about relative to Social Security. If you are part of a married couple, one of you is going to leave this planet earlier, okay, than the other one. All right, now, when that happens, that remaining spouse, the surviving spouse, is going to have a reduction in their household income because they're going to lose the lower of the Social Security amounts. So just be aware from a planning perspective that hopefully years from now, when your spouse passes away, you are going to see a reduction in your household income. So here's an example, all right? Harry and Bess Truman. Harry's Social Security is $2,000 a month, $24 a year. Bess's is $1,500. At the death of either Harry or Bess, the $18,000 is gone. That's gone. There's nothing you can do about that except plan accordingly. All right. So I just always make a note on this because a lot of people don't think about that kind of thing when they're doing their planning. But but a percentage of the Social Security is going to go away upon the death of the first spouse. In this case, it's 43% reduction in their Social Security income, which may or may not be a problem. Maybe you're okay with that. Maybe not. Right? I know when my dad passed away, that was a reduction. My mother continued on, but it was a big reduction. So, anyway, okay. And by the way, this is a much more of an issue for women than for men. Why? Because women outlive men, So it's really the woman, from a planning point of view, that really needs to be aware of this because women typically live 5 to 10 years longer than men, than their spouse. So again, from a planning point of view, it's something that really needs to be taken into consideration. Okay. Common claiming strategies that may enhance your benefits. Let me just see how we're doing time-wise. Okay, good. Okay, so there's file and suspend strategy. This is in the process of being phased out. It almost really doesn't even matter for the most part. file and suspend used to be this great strategy. I won't spend any time on it because it's going to be phased out, after, year after next. If you were born before 1954, then let me know, because there might be some planning. Okay. There's also this do-over reset strategy, start, stop, restart, and then backup savings. Let's talk about each one of them. Again, I'm not going to spend any time on file and suspend because, unless you were born, before 1954 and 53 and earlier, then it really does. It's not consequential anyway. Okay, but you can do the, a reset, if you will. So one time, all right, you can request a reset. So if you claimed your Social Security, and then within that first year, first 12 months after you've claimed it, you said, "Uh-oh, I made a mistake. I want to reset. I want to do over." Okay, you can actually do that with Social Security. The only thing is, whatever money they gave you during that time period, up to 1 year, you have to pay it back. And then they'll say, okay, clean slate, you can start again some other time. So there's this one-time option to restart if you made a mistake, or if you just changed your mind. All right, so again, there's all that information. Okay, then you have the start, stop, restart. You have to have reached full retirement age in order to do this, or later. But you can restart, you can stop your benefit, and then you can restart. Now, why would you do this? I mean, sometimes pension timing might be a consideration here where, you can claim your pension and say, okay, now I'm getting my pension, so I don't need the Social Security anymore. I'm going to stop that and let it continue. Remember that 8% increase? So there might be that option. But again, it's an option. Again, I just want to make sure that you're aware that you do, after full retirement age, you have this ability to start the benefit and then stop it, and then that will continue that building, if you will, that you get, after age, up to age 70. And obviously there's no growth after 70, so you want to obviously take it at that point. Backup saving strategy. So if you don't claim before your full retirement age, file and suspend your benefits at your full retirement age. And again, so here's what this means. Let's say your full retirement age is 67 and you're 68 years old and you go, you know what? I need a big chunk of money. I need a lump sum of money. Go to Social Security and say, listen, I would like to get a lump sum. And again, you haven't claimed, you're age 68. I would like to get a lump sum. What they'll do is say, okay, fine, you can go back to your age 67 amount, primary insurance amount. We'll total all that up, and we'll give you a lump sum check up to that age 68, and there you go, big chunk of money. Okay, so that's what that is. All right. Again, these are kind of obscure. I don't know how many people, ever take advantage of these kinds of things, but just to make you aware of them. Okay, I found a way for my Social Security check to cover my bills. I stack up my bills nice and neat with the Social Security check on top. I really like Krabby Road. I think she's funny. Anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in there. Okay, is it possible to live on Social Security? We're kind of on the home stretch now. Is it possible to live on Social Security? I talked about this earlier. Social Security for the average person is going to replace roughly 20 to 40%. All right. It's not, the program is not designed for people to live on. I mean, you hear these unfortunate stories where some people end up living on Social Security, but that's clearly not what the program was designed for. It's supplemental. That's ideally, that's what it is. It's that kind of foundational piece of your retirement income. Like I said earlier, it's where you start and then you build on top of that. Again, talked about all that. Okay. So this sort of causes this, what I refer to as Social Security retirement income gap. The amount between what you need, okay, so what Social Security is going to give you and what you actually need for income, all right, so there's a gap. If you need $4,000 a month and you're only getting $2,000 a month from Social Security, you got a $2,000 gap. How do you fill that gap? Well, this is where you get into And again, you know, the more money that you earn pre-retirement or pre-Social Security, the bigger the gap might be. So, but again, this is where you have to think about 401ks, IRAs, 403bs, pension, annuities, bonds, interest. You know, these are all the other things, dividends, real estate, life insurance, if you have that kind of thing, wages. Again, what other resources do you have in order to fill that gap? All right, timing your Social Security and coordinating it with other distributions. So, all right, so this is just something I just want to kind of show you quickly because there's age considerations here. So, all right, so at age 59 and a half, you have the option. I'm talking about, you know, distributions from qualified accounts like IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, et cetera. You have the option to begin taking distributions without penalty starting at age 59 and a half. At age 72, at least currently, it's an option before that. Now, starting at 72, you have to take what they call required minimum distributions. Social Security, you have the option starting at 62 to take your Social Security. At age 70, you're absolutely going to be getting your Social Security. The whole point of this is, what do you do? You know, where you have the option to do things versus, you know, the have to do things. How do you coordinate Social Security with distributions and your other retirement income resources? This is where planning becomes important, okay? Yeah, sure.
Is there a certain age that you have to start taking, like, say, for my youth, that you have to start taking, like you said, distribution?
Well, okay, so
72,
if you have an IRA, if you have an annuity that's an IRA annuity, then it's 72 based on current law. You have to start taking what they call a required distribution, a minimum amount. It's based on a calculation. You know, I have clients where we manage this for them. So if it's an IRA, see, an IRA can exist in a number of different forms, including annuities. So if you have an IRA annuity, then yeah, you'll have to do a distribution starting at 72. Before that, though, you don't have to. Right, yes?
I was trying to write an attitude.
Okay, if it's an IRA, you have to do a distribution. If it's a 401k and you're still working for that company that has that 401k, then you don't have to take a distribution. If it's a 401k from a company that you don't work for anymore, you have to take a distribution. You have to take a minimum distribution. But yeah, the 401k allows you to, if you're working for that company, you don't have to take a minimum distribution. I'm sorry? In theory, I don't think there's a limit. In theory, if you keep working for that company, I don't think you have to take a distribution. I mean, at the point you pass away, obviously it's a beneficiary account. So whoever the beneficiary, then it becomes an inherited 401k at that point. So in any case, but yeah, that's a good question. I've never actually thought about that if you just never retired, you know. But yeah, I mean, plenty of people, not plenty of people, I'm sure there's people that pass away. Obviously, there's people that pass away with a 401k at the company they're working for, but it's a beneficiary account, so obviously, you know, it goes from there. But again, the whole point of this, and again, this is just another example. If you need $5,000 a month, here's an idea. So should you claim Social Security at 65? I'm just saying this person wants to retire at 65. They want to have $5,000 a month. Should they take their Social Security, or should they take a higher distribution amount for the first 2 years and then, you know, claim their Social Security, or, you know, again, what is the best way to mix and match the different resources you have in order to accomplish your overall retirement goal? Look, this presentation is about Social Security, but I want to emphasize the point that Social Security is supplemental. It's a foundational piece of retirement income. You know, it's important to properly, you know, analyze and leverage it. but understand what that really means. It means coordinating with your other resources. So that's why I'm spending a little bit of time on this. Okay, retirement can be a very difficult decision for many of us. For example, Tom Brady, tough time retiring. He retired. Remember that? Yeah, he came back. He decided, I don't want to retire. Of course, somebody wasn't too happy about that. We all, if you're following the, so say football soap opera stuff, you're sort of, understanding what's going on there. Anyway, okay. So if you have a plan, then why wouldn't you want to retire, right? I mean, look, working, all that kind of stuff, it's fine. But if you have a plan and you can retire, you can make it work, why not do it? See, I think the reason Tom Brady unretired is because he retired and he started looking at his finances and he said, oh my God, I don't have a plan. I can't retire. Okay. Clearly I'm kidding. Okay. Okay, so again, this is just something, I'm not going to spend any time on this. If you want additional information, reach out to me. I'm happy to sit down with you. Okay. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention earlier that I actually have this credential, an SSA. I've gone through a series, a training regiment. One thing about, Social Security, the government, they don't train people. They don't send people out into the community to help you with your Social Security. You can call them up, you can go into their office, and they'll do whatever they can to help you out, but it's not really their job to help you with what I'm talking about. So there's people like me who have decided to kind of focus on this and make this an integral part of what they do, what I do. So I just wanted to mention I do have that credential. Okay. Here's a quick real story, and we're kind of running up against it here. So I'm going to make this real quick. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, the story you're about to hear is to protect the innocent. Remember Dragnet? Okay. Anyway, okay. I'm kind of rushing through this. All right, so this is actually a real client of mine. But I changed the name to protect the innocent. Harry and Bess Truman. Okay, so Harry, 61. By the way, this is at the time they came in to see me. 61 and 59. Intended retirement ages, they both wanted to retire in 2020. They actually have retired. I won't get into the details. So it wasn't exactly what they planned, but they're retired. Okay, both in good health, had longevities in their family, pre-retirement. So it really kind of went into some of this stuff right here. Living expenses, about $5,000 a month is what they were spending. Post-retirement, they figured what they were earning. They figured they needed to replace about 80% of that. That's what we projected. So they needed about $4,000 a month. So, at the point of Bess's retirement, they want to budget $7,500 a year for travel, discretionary expenses. For about 15 years, this equated to about $4,625. So their target was to create a retirement income of about $4,625. Okay. The retirement income, the Social Security income, is going to be $2,440 at Harry's full retirement age, and for Bess it was $1,998. So at the time of the first meeting, this is what they had in savings, different types of savings. No life insurance, no long-term care plan, and one child living independently. Didn't really have specific. They weren't trying to leave him any money, so legacy wasn't really a concern. But again, different options. So option A was that they would take the Social Security in 2020. Harry's would be reduced. Now remember that reduction part. Okay, so if he went with option A, they would reduce it down to $2,075. Bess's would be reduced down to $1,500. The income gap was going to be about $1,050, requiring annual distributions totaling $12,600. These distributions would total, up to age 70, would total approximately $370,000. Okay. Again, these are just quick numbers. That was option B. Option A. Option B was, again, now they wait to take Social Security at full retirement age, so they get the full amount. The income gap, it was almost break even. It was only about $187. But because Harry is waiting 2 years past his Social Security and Bess is waiting 4 years, they had to take more. They had to take distributions out just over $160,000, but would not need to take any distributions after that except for RMDs. Then there's option C. they wait until age 70, they maximize their Social Security. It really, bottom line was that over that time period, they'd have to take out $250,000 up to age 70, but after that, they actually had a surplus. So they'd actually be able to replace some of that income after the fact. All right, so I just blew right through those three options very quickly. The point is, which would you pick? Okay? The point I want to make here is that there's different ways to, develop your plan. What are the options? How do you manage, that process? Because there are different ways to do this, okay? It's not just a simple matter of, hey, I'll take my Social Security and that's it. If you're doing it right, you're going through something like this, and you're seeing what your options are, and then you're deciding which one is optimal for you. Considerations are life expectancy, how you feel about taking money out of your retirement savings. I have people that don't necessarily want to do that. This particular couple wanted to establish a long-term care fund. They were concerned about that. They're concerned about income taxes. Actually, Harry was very concerned about taxes and what the implications of that are. All right, so when should you start taking your benefits? Well, how long do you think you're going to live in retirement? How much retirement income do you think you're going to be needing? What are your available retirement resources? What do you have? How will you most effectively and efficiently leverage those resources? What's the best options? What should you do to protect your retirement from risks? What are the risks? Inflation, healthcare risks, stock market risk. What are the things that could, derail your plan, cause problems? And how do you mitigate or manage those problems? What's your next step? How do you go about doing this? What's the process? Considerations are, taxation. You have to think about taxes, market risk, stock market risk. Obviously, something we're all thinking about a little bit these days, maybe a lot these days. Sequence of withdrawals. That's a term. We'll get into it right now. But how you, take your money. Inflation. Obviously, it's a big deal now. Wasn't as much in the recent past. Fees. What are you paying in fees? I mean, unfortunately, the financial services industry, it's a profit-oriented industry. You're going to pay some fees, but what are you getting in return for those fees? And what about outliving your money? People are living a lot longer in retirement. How do you stretch your resources as long as you need to? Legacy. I mean, if you want to leave money behind for whatever, kids, charities, that type of thing. How do you manage legacy objectives together with everything else? Keys to this whole process are maximize all your retirement income and asset resources, starting with Social Security. That's kind of the starting point, the foundational piece. Budget and spending efficiency. This is one of the areas that I harp on with my clients is cash flow management. This is something that a lot of advisors don't talk to you about. Cash flow management is a critical aspect to ongoing, retirement management of your resources. Reduce taxes and fees. Protect against stock market losses and inflation. Balance retirement assets with legacy objectives, if you have those. Begin, now to create a retirement income plan. And it really, like I said, it starts with Social Security. That concludes the presentation. Any questions? There's a lot there, wasn't there?
Thank you. I agree, because there's all these misnomers, people will tell you things, right? And I don't mean my financial advisor, people in general.
Oh, people, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I realize how many people don't have a clue. They're like, oh, you should do this, you should do that.
Yeah, sometimes, it sounds simple, but it's really not simple. But you're exactly right. There's a lot of information kind of floating around out there, and you have to sift through it. Yep.
Today, I don't know if you guys have gone on the Social Security site, but I went on today because, we're coming here. And it was interesting, because like you said, you go onto the chart and you just click.
Yeah.
So I did start collecting at 64, 65.
Right.
Now I want to go home tonight and look at what the difference, because what I hear you telling us is, it may not be that much of a difference between 65 and 67.
Right.
It could be the full retirement. It could be a couple $100 a month, but
Right.
it
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that.
Right,
Yeah.
it is a lot of info, but I feel like now I can even kind of go home and look at the stuff on my own.
Yeah, there's a lot of information. One of the things that I do with my clients is I follow what I refer to as a logical and sequential planning process, which simplifies, organizes, and allows you to put you in a position to make decisions from a position of confidence. The problem is that if you don't simplify and organize things, then it's much more challenging, and in some cases impossible, to really make a decision where you can go, yeah, that's the right decision. Sometimes it's just like, well, I just made a decision. I hope it was the right one, as opposed to, yeah, that was the right decision because I went through the process, and yeah, that's definitely the right decision. So, a question? Yep.
Yeah, what's the relationship of Medicare Medicare, Social Security, and retirement?
Well, okay, so Medicare is the government's, at age 65, then you are eligible for Medicare. So the Medicare premium will typically be deducted from your Social Security check, although if you're not getting your Social Security, if you've decided to delay it, then the government will just simply bill you for your Medicare. I mean, they're completely separate programs. One is health-related. You've got your A, B, C, D, that type of thing. Social Security and Medicare are completely different programs, but yeah, there's some interaction, if you will, just in terms of how the premium is managed, if that helps.
You're going to get Medicare taken out, and you can use Medicare regardless of the.
Well, yeah, I mean, part of working and paying into Social Security entitles you to Medicare.
Okay.
Yeah, if that's what you're asking, yeah. So yeah, there's if you look on your paycheck, they've got Social Security wages, Medicare wages, So yeah, you're paying into both. You're paying into Social Security. You're also paying separately into Medicare.
And the government too?
Well, yeah, your employer and you, pay into Medicare and Social Security, yeah. Is it, yep.
What is the benefit, if I retire at 62 and I don't collect my Social Security until like MRA? In the meantime, I just live on my savings. Do you think it's a good approach, or should I collect Social Security to spend the money instead of my own savings?
Yeah, that's a great question. It may, depending on your circumstances, it may make all kinds of sense for you to take your Social Security. If you say, I want to retire at 62 and I need to replace 80% of my pre-retirement income, so I need that Social Security in order to do that, then by all means take it. But on the other hand, there might be options for you to delay the Social Security, not take a reduction in your Social Security income, allow you to have more Social Security income down the road when you do collect it, by utilizing your other resources within that gap. So if, let's say, I'm going to retire at 62, but I'm going to wait until 65 to collect my Social Security. So I've got that 3-year gap. I can fill that gap by taking distributions from my IRA, blah, blah, blah. If you're working, if you're able to do it, great. If you need to sit down with a financial professional to help you with that calculation, because then it really is about projecting. It's like, okay, Social Security, my IRA, how much do I have in there? How is it invested? What's my, what is your investment, your feeling about investments, okay? It's what is your concern, being either, more of an aggressive investor, more of a conservative investor, how do you invest your money, and how does that play into how you would manage your investments over time? It's suitability is what it really boils down to.
If my investment, my savings is capable to cover the expenses for me until I
Right.
collect my Social Security, then the better approach is wait until the retirement and get
I'm going to say it's not better to do that. What you really need to do is to sit down go through a planning process that enables you to actually look at the different options. Here's option A, collect it at 62. Option B, collect at 65. Okay, here's how option A projects forward. Here's how option B projects forward. What makes more sense? And to some degree, I mean, it's certainly about the numbers, but to a large extent, it can also be about, okay, so life expectancy comes into it. How is your money invested? What's the stock market doing at the moment? A lot of people right now are really concerned about the stock market. A few years ago, people weren't concerned about the stock market. Mike, I love what's going on with my investments. Let it ride. Now it's like, oh my God, I don't want to let it ride. I'm concerned. It depends on what's happening. So it's not necessarily better to wait till 65. It may be, but I advocate actually going through a process that enables you to look at your options and ultimately make a decision, based on a full review of what your options are.
But if my saving is fine, my private investment is fine, then it's better for me to wait for.
Okay, yeah, I mean, yes, I'm not going to disagree with you. It may very well be better. Absolutely. It could be.
Risk for her if she, I think that's the smart approach. But tell me if I'm
Yeah.
wrong. The smart approach is you're right. Retire if you want, but don't take Social Security because if by chance financially you get sick, you need money and you've used up your income and you need to go back to work, couldn't she be penalized and get taxed high?
Well, there's the earnings test, yeah.
Right, so
Yeah.
if by chance that happens, the conservative approach is to do what you just said, right?
Well, the idea is, okay, so rule of thumb, always better to wait to take your Social Security. Basic rule of thumb. But, in your particular situation, yours, it may be different. It's important to really analyze what your situation is, and to a large extent, it's knowing what are the questions. It's not always knowing exactly what the answers are, because people are going to say, oh, absolutely, wait until 70. For every single person out there, always wait until age 70. Somebody thinks they have the answer, but maybe they didn't ask the right question or questions. So yeah, rule of thumb, yeah, wait to take your Social Security.
Anyway, some of my friends say that why don't you utilize because the case of 2032.
32, yes.
No more money. Why get
Yeah.
the money now?
Oh, I've had people say that. I've had people come in and say, Mike, listen, I am taking my Social Security the second it's available. I am not waiting. And I'll be like, okay, well, why? Because I don't think it's going to be here. Those damn politicians, So I'm like, hey, if that's your decision, if that's how you feel about it, far be it from me to twist anybody's arm to change their mind. If somebody comes into, my job is not to tell people what to do. My job is to help people to ask the right questions so that they can begin getting answers, so they can put together a plan which is efficient and effective given their retirement objectives. So, yeah. By the way, it sounds complicated. I hope I'm not coming across. It's actually not as hard as it seems. It's easier than it seems, but it's still important to go through the steps. That's my whole thing. I've got a six steps retirement is my whole program. If anybody wants a copy of my book, I give complimentary copies. So I think we're out of time here. So my pleasure. Thank you.